When you sit in a room, turn on your console, another world is introduced to you. You're pressing a button, it makes an action, but your actions have consequences. You directly interact and influence with the world that's in front of you. What you're experiencing is not only visual, like in the dark rooms of the seventh art. Here you're part of the action. You experience the randomness, the struggle, and the competition. Since the dawn of time, people have always loved competition, from Olympics born in the Greek ages, still famous nowadays. Competitions is part of what makes us human. We strive to be better, stronger, faster. We set rules, create contests that we strive to win. With the growing interest of seeing other people compete in the game, and the technological advances society has seen, like the computers, consoles, all the conditions seem to be reunited for esports to become big. But at the beginning, it wasn't, and still isn't for some people.
It's still not a sport. Well, it's a game.
How did we get from this?
YouTube launched a new video network yesterday. It's called the We Should All Be Very Ashamed of Ourselves for Failing as Parents channel.
To this.
Should we play another one?
Guys, we got a new uniform.
Esports, just like video games, are cross-cultural and cross-border. Could esports become the most consumed media of the 21st century?
My name's Alex Blaike, and I work for ESL Australia as a PR and social media manager. ESL, for those that don't know, is a global esports company, the biggest independent global esports company. We've got offices all around the world. So I work in the Australian office, and effectively what we do at ESL is we run video game tournaments and events. We run everything from small online cups to the biggest stadium scale esports events that you see in the world.
Je suis Gael Parpex et je suis le gérant de Génération eSport. Du coup, Génération eSport, qui est une plateforme web qui permet la mise en relation entre joueurs et équipes et clubs e-sport. À côté de cela, outre Génération eSport, j'ai deux autres plateformes. J'ai Compétition eSport qui fait la promotion des tournois en France. Et là, on ouvre dans quelques jours ma team eSport qui permettra aux associations, aux clubs eSport de collecter des adhésions.
I'm Justin McNolley. I go under the name Miraku in game. My favorite game is PUBG, which I've currently been playing for about 3.5 years now. I currently play for TSM's PUBG team. Yeah, we played in a competition last weekend. It was the PUBG Continental Series 1, which we managed to win.
But the first thing, what actually is esport?
I've got asked this question quite a lot. It never gets any easier to answer.
Très intéressant parce que j'avais un débat avec un ami il y a pas longtemps qui me disait que l'e-sport pour lui c'était que les gros événements et autres. Et j'ai fait non.
To put it shortly, competitive video gaming.
À partir du moment où on est 4, on se met devant une télé, on prend chacun une manette, on joue à FIFA. S'il y a un enjeu derrière, c'est une compétition. Alors c'est bien sûr c'est de l'amateurisme, mais ça reste une compétition. Et pour moi, l'e-sport, c'est l'esprit compétitif sur l'ensemble des jeux vidéo.
What is an esports player? I don't know. I just play games.
To use a sport as an example, in Australia we have Australian rules football. So I hope that some of the audience might know, but effectively Australian rules football, very similar to many other ball games. You've got two teams. One team is trying to get the ball through one set of goals during the first half of the game, and during the second half of the game they swap sides and that team is trying to get it through the other goals. And that's very similar to a lot of esports. If you think about some of the most popular esports games at the moment, like Counter-Strike, the concept is exactly the same. You've got two teams, one of them's trying to win an objective. Halftime, they swap sides, then the other team's trying to play for the objective, and it's 5v5, it's a team game. That's essentially how it works.
In the last 5 years, at least since I've started watching Twitch and watching esports, the viewer base has grown like substantially. Like I would say like 10 times the size as it was 5 years ago at least.
I think It's really exciting to be in the esports scene today because we're seeing so much growth and so many people trying new things.
La scène e-sport continue à se développer avec les écoles qui commencent à naître un peu à droite à gauche pour faciliter la formation, que ce soit sur les métiers de joueurs, de coaching ou de management.
I think just the other week I saw that Fnatic now is sponsored by Gucci. Years ago, you never would have considered that these gamers are being sponsored by one of the most high fashion luxury brands in the world.
Le problème, c'est le cadre légal. L'e-sport n'est pas forcément vu à sa juste valeur. Malgré un énorme potentiel de marché, mais il n'est pas vu à sa juste valeur, et c'est que l'État ne suit pas forcément toutes les ambitions de ceux qui veulent faire avancer ce secteur.
So it's starting to get, I mean, it is very, very mainstream now, and it's no longer a genre or a thing that's just played in bedrooms and university halls. We are talking now that esports is in the mainstream. It's being played in stadiums now.
A good way to analyze a phenomenon is to study how the media treats the subject. Truth is, while the hype about esports and video games is growing, the media reception of the genre is quite rough.
Zero knowledge of the fact that this exists.
You didn't know there were cyber athletes?
My hand to God, I didn't know there were but my issue is it's still not a sport.
Well, again,
it's a game.
See, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This has really invaded the family systems because it is so addictive. It is incredibly addictive. It has been likened to something like heroin.
20 million people who are watching the damn thing.
And the money
they got to be crazier than the ones
paying big money to watch it.
I'm laughing because I can't think of anything less interesting. But
why anyone would have Fortnite in their home, because it is like giving a child heroin.
And we must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace.
All around the world, people pack into massive arenas just to watch them play. Video games.
The US, he's known as Booga, has won $3 million. You heard that right?
Sports.
What in God's name is that from?
That's right. They're playing video games for money. Big money.
I think it's not that fair. A lot of the time, I think gaming is thrown under the bus, as they say. Like, it's giving a lot of bad light for no reason, in my opinion.
Le traitement médiatique est un peu timide pour l'instant par rapport aux jeux vidéo. Ils ont sûrement leur raison. Je pense que je me mets à leur place en réfléchissant comme un chef d'entreprise. Ils estiment que le retour sur investissement n'est pas encore bénéfique pour eux, tout simplement.
It's quite funny because I work in PR, of course, and I get to have the experience of working with some of the traditional media and also working with modern online digital media. And I think there's definitely been a shift. Bon Appetit, a cooking channel, can have Ninja on their program and it be effectively just normal because he's a pop culture figure. Speaks volumes about the shift that we've seen. Now, it is still tricky to get the traditional media to sort of get over their stereotypes when reporting esports, because there's always a bit of a what I've found is always a bit of a tendency for them to kind of go back on what they thought esports was 10 years ago, and all of these stereotypes will pop up.
La vérité d'un moment n'est pas forcément la vérité du lendemain, tu vois ce que je veux dire? Cet échange et ce qui est important, c'est pas de rester figé sur son avis et de pouvoir le faire évoluer en fonction de ce qui évolue.
I see that esports actually gets a bit more attention now in the media. Like, for example, in the newspapers and stuff in Ireland, there's some, there's now and again there's something about esports, so I think that's positive. So I think it's going in the right direction.
But now we're really starting to get through that period of education with the mainstream media and starting to actually, see them shift and really understand a lot more about what it's about.
Like, gaming's not like all positive, You shouldn't, as a kid, you shouldn't be gaming 14, 15 hours a day. Like, I see that part of it, but I think for the most part, gaming is kind of given a bad light, and it's made to be looked bad when it really isn't after all.
Video game, the essence of esport, is considered the 10th art, and while the concepts of cinema or literature, for example, became commonplace, the way the 10th art expresses itself is still widely misunderstood by scholars. One way it could express itself is through esports. Where do the video games and esports stand in today's cultural industry? Are we witnessing the birth of a new culture?
There's a lot of stuff that you only know if you're gaming or if you're within esports. You know, there's certain things you understand.
I think that it's great that we can now have this question, which of course I've heard many times before, particularly in my game development days, whilst also simultaneously the question can and is being asked about, are video games a sport from an esports context? So, you know, we've kind of got two questions at the moment that are you know, still around for video games. You know, are video games a sport? Are video games art? What are video games?
Nous, on a grandi dedans, mais du coup, rien n'était structuré. Et là, le monde du jeu vidéo, le monde de l'e-sport, se structure petit à petit en France et dans le monde, et se structure de manière assez efficace. Et du coup, aujourd'hui, c'est simple. Comment tu vois que quelque chose est rentré dans la culture, que le sujet est rentré dans la culture, c'est entre amis de quoi tu parles. Donc, à partir du moment où un sujet est présent dans la société et dans les conversations, c'est que il s'est passé quelque chose, et du coup les jeux vidéo pour moi ont pris une place culturellement parlant en France.
You can look at a game like Grand Theft Auto, which I believe on its opening week or month, you know, broke box office records for just the amount of revenue taken in for a entertainment release in the entertainment space, which of course includes movies. So I think monetarily and revenue wise, we're already there. But yeah, whether video games are art or not, I think, you know, it's definitely subjective, as all art is. I've been and seen some modern art that, you know, has made me question whether it was art as well. And I think as soon as something starts popping up the question to a number of viewers as to whether it is art or not, that probably means it is in today's world.
I think most people, when they play games, well, a lot of people, they aspire to be as good as they can. They get a lot of enjoyment from, you know, seeing maybe their favorite streamer or something play against, you know, another team.
There are two main reasons that people watch esports. One is because what you see in esports, in a very similar way to what you see in regular sport, is that people want to see the best players of their craft in the world. They want to see stuff that they can only dream of achieving in a video game, in the same way that, you know, you might go watch you know, tennis to see just the sort of shots that Roger Federer might hit. You know, a Counter-Strike player might go and watch the Intel Extreme Masters just to see the sort of shots that you know, a famous player like Nico might hit, and then be able to try and go back home and emulate them. The other element is definitely a sense of community as well, where we see a lot of people that come to our events in particular and watch esports that aren't necessarily your, you know, they're not hardcore gamers as such. They don't play video games 50 hours a week. That's not who you have to be able to go to an event and watch esports. You know, you're going there, these guys are going there because it is a very easily digestible medium that fosters a great sense of community as well. And at the end of the day, when you're in the crowd at an esports event, or, you know, even on Twitch chat digitally, and someone makes a great play, then you can feel the atmosphere, you can see the reactions coming out, and much like traditional sports, you know, that makes it just so much more understandable and so much more fun to watch.
The similarities often raise the question of whether esport is considered in fact a sport or not. Historically, developing spectatorship in any sport relies on several criteria identified as follows. 1. Competitions that award prizes.
$3 million. You heard that right? Last week.
2. Venues with large crowd capacity. 3. A labor market of professional and semi-professional players. 4. State funding donated to the development of the sport. 5. Sports media. 6. Institutionalization. And of course 7. Merchandising sales.
There's teams that have fans that are like, oh, I support Liquid, or I follow Liquid, they're my favorite team. So I know you can bet on games now within esports. So it's getting very similar to like football and rugby and stuff.
Les valeurs se rejoignent. À partir du moment, pour moi, où il y a de la compétition, tu peux le mettre dans la même catégorie que le sport. Et puis, l'e-sport, c'est de la compétition pure. Hein.
Definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, an esports competition, in the exact same way that a sports competition has it, the best player will win. That's the nature of competitiveness, effectively. The two are very similar in how esports operates, how sports operates. What gets viewership, what doesn't get viewership are extremely similar and tied together. So the only thing I would say now in terms of the actual growth of viewership is that when you start talking about that in Australia for some sports, you start having to use the word, contraction as opposed to growth.
Voilà, il y a de l'enjeu, il y a de la compétition, il y a de l'effort. Pour moi, il y a de l'effort dans l'e-sport. Hein. J'en entends dire, ouais, non, mais t'es derrière ton PC, ouais, c'est pas de l'effort. Vous savez, c'est pas forcément courir un effort. Hein.
When talking about viewership, rugby is a good example here that's been struggling for viewership recently. So I think esports is very lucky to be able to use the term growth pretty much, unanimously across the world.
Et moi, je pense, c'est mon avis, et je pense que je le partage avec beaucoup, qui va s'imposer comme un divertissement.
But I think that esports is going to continue going from strength to strength. We're continuing to see a lot of investment coming in from brands, from players, from video game publishers, and I think that in another few years we're just going to continue to see people grow up with esports as their primary form of entertainment.
The elite disregard it, parents fear it, while the rest can't stop talking about it, and this already means that it deserves our attention. Esports competitions are organized for viewers to witness action, rivalry, spectacular moments, plot twists, and drama. Maybe it's time to provide this view of esports that is renewed, take it as a serious institution in society. In contrast with commonly raised subjects by other documentaries or stories such as cash prizes, the lifestyle of athletes, or getting rich by playing video games. The always increasing popularity of the genre probably elevates esports as an important media actor of today's society.